Hey, what's up? It's Jake, and I've been doing a lot of scripting lately with Python, and I think I figured out what I want to do with this. So, I have four kids that are all in school, high school, middle school, elementary school, and they're always needing help with their math homework. So, one thing I did with one of my high schoolers was I wrote some scripts that you can plug numbers into, and depending on the equation, will output a graph, the answer, and an explanation of how I got that answer and how it works so that they can look at it and learn how to do something if they're in a bind. They can just look it up on their phone or whatever. Is kind of what I want to do. So right now I just do it with them in a notebook at the table at the kitchen table. So I figure this would be a good opportunity to show you how to set up static web hosting on S3. So the first thing I did was I went to Route 53 and I clicked on um, well on the actual if you're here and you do get started or whatever, you can just open this menu and go to dashboard, and you'll have these hosted zones, and you can create a hosted zone if you want to. Or what I did was I went to Route 53 and bought a domain name. So from domains, you can just register a domain, and I bought dadmath.org. So that is my domain that I'm going to use. You can see it here, dadmath.org. And it just has some simple DNS stuff that's all registered, and it takes like a day or less for it to propagate out and work and everything like that. But it was $12 a year. I went with .org because it was very, very cheap, and .com was taken. But you can go ahead and register a domain name. It'll just bill the $12 to my Amazon account, so it'll be on my Amazon bill. Which, if you do that and you have an alert set up for a low budget, just know that if you get an alert, that's probably why. Yeah. So this is just a very simple process for registering a custom domain. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go to S3, and you can do this in the command line, most certainly, but I'm just showing here because I think most people will probably get this here. And I'm going to make a bucket, and I'm going to call this bucket dadmath.org. And I can stick it wherever. It doesn't really matter. US West is fine for me. So I have a bucket name. I have everything else is whatever. So the root bucket is what this is, this dadmath.org. Since this is the root of my website, I need a bucket name that matches the root name. Okay, so this is my root domain bucket. And I got it in my region. It's pretty close to me, so that's fine. I can accept the default settings and just hit create. Bucket versioning, I don't really care right now. I'm not doing anything crazy with this. I just need to own it because these bucket names are globally unique. So I want to grab it as soon as I can. In fact, if you want to host something statically, definitely check that the bucket name is available before you buy them a domain, or else you're not going to be able to do this. You're going to have to set it up some other creative way. So anyways, I'm also going to create a subdomain bucket, and it's going to be www.dadmath.org. And I'm going to leave all these defaults and create the bucket. And that should be fine. And then I need to configure dadmath.org to as the root domain bucket for website hosting. So in here, I need to go to properties, and then there's an option down here for static website hosting. And if you scroll down, it says static web hosting disabled. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to turn it on. And you're going to see that there are a few options here. So I'm just going to use this bucket to host the static website. Use this bucket endpoint as the web address. There's also some redirect options if you have other buckets that redirect. So that could be useful if you don't have the right name and stuff like that. And then we have the index document. So for index document, I'm just going to do index.html. That'll be my index document. It's case sensitive, and it has to exactly match the name of the file that you're going to use. So make sure that if you're using something else that it matches exactly. And when you configure the bucket for hosting, you have to specify some kind of index document. S3 will return this index document when a request is made to the root domain or any subdomain folders. And there's extra detail you can go into there, but that should be fine for now. If I want to put in some kind of error document, I could put like an error.html, and I could make an error. So if it's down, it'll display this instead of not available or whatever, which can be handy. We're not going to do any redirect rules right now. You could conditionally route requests according to some specific object key name or prefix, like algebra.dadmath.com or something like that. So anyways, let's see here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and note the endpoint. So in here, I don't have any objects in here. I'm going to need to make an index.html file. So in here, I'm just going to make a folder called dadmath, and I'll probably push this up to GitHub, obviously. And in here, I'm going to put my index.html file, and I'm going to put in my error.html file, and I'm going to make it really simple. I'm just going to do like a header and say, in my header, welcome to dadmath.org. This website is under construction, but please check back soon for updates. And that should be it. And then my error.html, I'll do the same thing. A header 1, and I'll just say, oops, something went wrong. Please notify Dad if you are getting this message. Something like that. So now I have an index file and an error file. They're in my dadmath repo. So now I should be able to upload, add files. Like I said, there's command line ways to do this as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. Do I not have repos in a shortcut? I guess not. I have a new computer, so it's not all completely shortcutted out yet. In fact, let me just do that real quick. We're just going to pin to quick access. If you're a Windows user, that's how you get all these neat little things here. And under dadmath, I'm going to upload my index file. And actually, I'm going to upload my error file right now as well. And hit upload. And then close that. So now I have these two files. So now, because this is configured for hosting websites, the files that it's looking for actually exist. So that's good. After we edit that, we need to edit the block public access settings, and also need to put in some kind of bucket policy. So this is enabled bucket hosting. I've got my website endpoint. If I need that for whatever reason, you can see here I don't have access because I did not give permissions to do that. So if we look at this bucket here, buckets and objects are not public. So I'm just going to go in here, go into properties, and then look at our make pub. Oh yeah, they moved this. They moved it. So I'm going to grab these. Action. Yeah, they moved this. All right, where did they move it to? It used to be in properties. let me just go to permissions, access bucket and objects not public. So let's edit this, and we're going to take off block all public access and save. You're going to get a warning saying that, hey, everything in here is going to be publicly accessible, and we want that. It's just my index and error files. So now that's off, and then we need some kind of bucket policy, right? So we want to edit this, and right now it just says allow everything, allow anything, pretty much. So that is fine for now. And then now, if I refresh this, you can see there's still an access denied error. So what we need to do now is we need to configure my subdomain bucket for website redirect. So this is my subdomain bucket right here. And I'm going to go into properties and then scroll down to the bottom. Static website hosting, edit, enable, and we're going to do redirect request for an object. And then the host name is just going to be dadmath.org. And then our protocol right now is HTTP. So if you want to do HTTPS, you actually can't do that on S3. I mean, you can, but it's not going to work because you don't have any certificates. So we will do that at some point. I'll publish that, and you're going to have to use CloudFront for that. And we'll have a CDN set up for this. Okay, so that worked. That's all set, and you see it still doesn't work, right? Because this is the endpoint. But if I go to just the website address, see that can't be reached. If I go to www, it says that can't be reached. There's a DNS problem. So now what do you do? Okay, well now I've got my root domain is my target bucket box here. And let's just double check this. Yep, host name. Okay, looks good. So that'll be the redirect. And then we can configure logging if we want to, which right now I'm not going to do. We uploaded our index file and our error file. And let's see what else we need to do here. We enabled static website hosting. We got the index file. We got our error file. And then we uploaded it to our bucket. And it is, let's just double check that my bucket is now good, but these are not going to be public more than likely. So if I go to permissions, it says everything in here is good, but if I edit this, can I look at the permissions on this file? Permissions, object owner is read. Everyone else, it doesn't have anything here. So this bucket has the bucket owner enforce setting applied for object ownership. So when the bucket owner enforce is applied, use bucket policies to control access. Okay, so we go in here, and I'm going to go to permissions, and I'm going to look at my bucket policy. It says there's no policy display. I'm going to add this, and this is just some kind of simple kind of thing, right? It says effect, allow, action, whatever. So if I wanted to, I could go S3, and you can, it just froze on me. You can edit this policy to allow access to S3. Just wait. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for this to finish. Let's just refresh this. It'll close probably. That's fine. All right, so we got our block access done. That's turned off. So literally the last thing I need to do is just attach this policy. Come on. wait. Can I open a new one? Amazon.com. Oops. Dot. Yeah, that's the one I want. All right, let's close that. Sign in. Creds are cached. Go to S3. Go to my root bucket. Permissions. Bucket policy. Edit. Okay, there we go. So you can use a policy generator if you want, and you could be like, I need an S3 bucket policy to allow whatever. I'm going to copy. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to copy the one given from Amazon, which is public read get object, allow principal any action S3 get object on resource, and then I just put in my bucket name here, which is dadmath.org, and then save changes. And now we can see that I have a bucket policy. And if I go here, it says there's a DNS problem, and there's a reason for that. And you can probably guess what it is. If you were testing the endpoint, for example, it should work now. So if I look at, where's my properties? Should be an endpoint at the bottom. Yeah. So here's my endpoint, and it doesn't have anything in here. BBC News, thanks. But if I go to, let me double check my index file is, did I save this? I want to make sure that the index file is in fact has something that says 0 bytes open. Yeah, there's nothing. So let me do this. Let me go back in here and remove this index file. Delete. Permanently delete. And then we'll go back and upload my index file. Add file, index. There, okay, we can see it. I think maybe I didn't save it or something. There we go. Now it's got some data in there. It said 0 bytes before. So now if I go to index and I were to try to open this, we can see it has this horrible just block of bold text. So that's good. So now if I go here, we can see that it doesn't work, right? So now we actually need to set up our domain in Route 53 to point to this bucket so that it works. So I'm going to go to Route 53. I'm going to go to hosted zones, dadmath.org, and I'm going to create a new record. Whoa. And in here, what I can do is just no record name at the beginning, and then dadmath.org, and then you can do this routes to IP address, right? We want to route it to an AWS resource. It says and some AWS resources, so that's fine. And then as far as this record goes, we're going to do an alias to an S3 website endpoint. And I used US West 1, so I'm going to stick with that. And then here's my endpoint that I created. I'm going to use simple routing policy, evaluate target health, and then create records. So now when it hits this domain, it's going to route that traffic to this S3 endpoint. And it might take a little bit for this to propagate, which is why we have this DNS error. And if we look at our network and I go refresh, we can see here what's going on in the console. Refresh, and it just says failed to load, no resource with given identifier. And it's trying to do my Chrome game, which I think is funny. Reload. Come on, keep going. Let me go back here, and then let's take a look at this. All right, so I have this record. It's been created, and it's pointing to this bucket, and this bucket is configured for website hosting. And I have an endpoint which if I open goes to the right thing. So now we're just trying to connect Route 53 here with an A record to that exact same endpoint, which was S3. Let me double check this record and make sure it's correct. The value is this. And that shouldn't be correct. Let's edit this sucker. Edit record. Close this. Yeah, okay. So dadmath.org. So that's working. Or it says it works. And so this A record, this is my alias record. I need to do one for my subdomain and my domain. So let me check this real quick here. We're going to make another one, and it's going to be www dot, oh, no dot, because there's already a dot here. A record, alias, S3 website endpoint, US West 1, endpoint is here, simple routing, create record. Okay, that record's been created. And I'm just waiting now. Keep going, keep going. All right, let me pause the video and I'll wait for it to propagate. Okay, there we go. So now that's working. And if I come back here and I try it, it's cached or something. So I just opened an incognito window and did it, and it worked just fine. So in theory, if I clear my cache, that should work. So let's go ahead and try this. Security, browsing history, clear data. Okay, got it. Go back here, dadmath.org, and there it is. All right, so I successfully purchased a domain and set up my root bucket and my alias bucket, created my alias records in Route 53, and set everything to point to my S3 bucket. So from this point forward, even you can go to dadmath.org and answer all of your math questions that you may have. So in the future, my plan is I'm going to create a GitHub repo, a public repo for this, and I'm going to start uploading all of my code to GitHub. And then as soon as I have all of my code uploaded, I can use that to perform some sort of action on here. And I'm going to set this up with probably some Lambda functions. And the plan is to have a CDN, so I'll use a CloudFront distribution network, and you will hit the CloudFront endpoint, public endpoint, and I'll upload a certificate there. So I'm going to register this domain with a certificate authority. So you'll be HTTPS, to be totally secure, and then that will forward the traffic to S3. S3 will have my static pages, and I'll just build some simple HTML pages for this. And then you can click on the links in the static pages, and if there's an action you need to do, like enter a number and hit execute or go or solve or whatever the button is, well, I think what I'm going to do is I will store my Python code in Lambda as Lambda functions, and then have that trigger a Lambda function that will return an answer in the form of a response. And so yeah, so that's essentially the architecture. Very simple. It's all serverless, and it's paid down to the millisecond, so it should be almost free, if not free, to do all of this. And yeah, that's it. So if you have any questions, let me know. But if you want to host your own website, you want to make a blog, you want to do whatever it is you want to do, recipes, I don't know, something. That's essentially the bare bones of how to do it. But when I go through the CloudFront part, I'll go ahead and create a video for that when I do it. So have fun. See you later.